Dang it, dang it, dang it. Well, alright, YouTube, we're going live. Get my speaker in, so let's straighten that up a little bit. Goodness. It's a little crooked, it looks like. What's going on, YouTube? So quick lunchtime, semi-quick. We'll see how quick this goes down. See who checks in here with us, but I want to get it rolling since it is a lunchtime, and let's get a little soothing tunes here. Always good to relax a little bit, right? Strum the guitar a little bit until somebody gets in here at least. See how long this takes. All right, just don't get fired up too much. Getting the wind kicking in from the rear here. All right, so subject of the day, subject of the chat, obviously today is a well talked about day. Everybody is going to be putting out their videos in memoriam and everything else, and you got to really ask yourself, what has come to fruition? Are we really any freer than we thought we were? Have we gained security with freedom? Have we gained any security at all? It's been 17 dadgum years, and certainly doesn't seem like that in most respects. And if anything, they're giving away our freedom for privileges, and with empty promises is what I've seen or felt or experienced. And that's happened in several different ways. It's not like it's direct in your face. Of course not. It's all subterfuge and taking from what people are willing to give up in this maddening time that we live in. But not only with the security apparatus, just the TSA alone should let people know how much they're concerned for your freedom, because they're not, and people are willing to sacrifice that freedom and have sacrificed that freedom for what? The apparatus was in place 18, 20 years ago to stop what happened, and they didn't implement it and they didn't use it. And they asked for more power and were granted more power and authority that they didn't deserve to supposedly fix it again. And we've seen what's happened since then. Hey, all right, we got some people joining us here. Midwest Prepper, what's up? It's a rhetorical question, I guess, Midwest, with the title. Hey, Miss B. Stacy, how you doing down there? Hopefully it's cooling off for you guys. It's gotten cooler up here. Still a little warm. We're at like 85. That's warm enough for me. But it's not quite fall weather yet. Alicia Clegg, good afternoon. LS, how you doing? Good afternoon. So everybody, of course, wants to memorialize and remember the innocent victims that that happened 17 years ago. Everybody wants to remember them. That's without a doubt. But the problem is nobody talks about the occurrence and what happened after that and how that was manipulated to essentially change all of our lives forever and build upon this superior security structure that we can't escape now. It justifies every infringement that we get on a daily basis, from electronic tracking to financial tracking to the list goes on and on. I mean, everybody knows what the supposed Patriot Act has done. Everybody has been aware of that for the most part. But still people just say they're going to remember, but they don't remember the freedoms they had. They don't remember what it was like to not live under a police state, or at least not as much of a police state, I guess you'd say. I mean, it was definitely a lot less. And people think they gave up a little bit of freedom for a lot of security. And really, are you more secure or are you just more controlled? And it's because you feel more controlled, you feel like you're more secure. Not you in the proverbial, but the proverbial we, you know. Most people feel like, well, if I'm being watched and I'm being tracked, then everybody must be, and I must be secure. But we have daily examples of where that's not the case. We have daily examples of the FBI knows about a known training camp in the middle of the Mexico desert, and nobody did anything about it, at least until at least one kid died. On and on, right? But not only is all that, if that's not bad enough, I wanted to go pull up the figures because I thought it was important. But we've also been sold into financial slavery, essentially. So I pulled up this snapshot from the debtclock.org, since I don't have it on a computer out here, mobile. The debt clock. So I can get this to zoom in. Oh, it's going to be backwards. Dadgummit. Read it backwards. Come on, y'all are smart. That was September 11th, 2000. It does the debt clock that only goes back in 4-year increments, I found out. But on September 11th, 2000, we were $5 trillion in debt, a little bit over. 5,265,683,835. All right? Does that make sense? That's what our debt was the year before this all went down. The 2004 numbers were even scarier. We'd already, in 2004, it went to 7 trillion something. So in that short period of time, 3 years, I'm sorry, after the event, $2 trillion, almost 50% more of what it was the year before. Where did all that money go? Where did all that debt go? And the bigger concern is, where does all the debt that we're now existing in, 21 trillion, and you can go on down, as of today, as of this posting, and what kind of funny baloney numbers they're using. But does that not directly infringe on your freedom? Well, yeah, of course it does, because it devalues your labor. It takes your labor from you. It's got the stats in here. The amount owed in 2000, they didn't actually track that, I guess, in that old clock. The clock changed a few years back. Let's see if I can find it. It's got a number here. So this is the 2000 number. Total debt per citizen, supposedly. Whoa. Where's that at? It's 94,000 and something. Total debt per citizen. If I can see this without blinding myself. Right there. 94,144. Right? And now what is that number? Debt per citizen. As according to the debt clock, of course, it's rounded numbers, but it's to give you an idea, 216,580. That's per citizen. That's what they think that you owe, just because they go off on these extravagant spending plans. Does that make you freer? No, it enslaves you in debt, and all of us. It devalues our labor and what we get back in return. So what have we gotten any more security? Look at our border. We are inviting people to invade the country, so we're not secure in that way. We're not secure in our finances because we allow banks to print money out of thin air. So financial and physical security are all at risk. So when people are talking about memorializing this day, I think you would have, without a doubt, but you got to look at the implications and what's happened since. This is an article I printed off today. You're going to have a hard time reading it. But it's the Washington Examiner. Illegal immigrants cited in theft of 39 million Social Security numbers. 39 million Social Security numbers are being used in fraudulent schemes. So this is dated today, and it was linked on the Drudge. Pretty sure this is the one I got off the Drudge. It was linked off the Drudge, and how much malfeasance and fraud is going on with that. And our government is doing nothing of their duty to secure international borders and securing international treaties to guard the border, to protect the people. But not only do they steal your money through Social Security and not let you have it in the end, but then they give it away through schemes like this to people who didn't pay in or don't deserve it, if you will. Further destroying your security. Your financial security. Gone, up in smoke, right? Let me see who I got checking in here. Sorry. I am trying to get through lunch while we're in here. Hey, Preparedness is with us. Good afternoon. How you doing? 96 in Vegas, right? That is cool, right? Midwest Prepper brings up that, yeah, our information is sold as a commodity to corporations, right? Bikes and Bullets. Hey, Bikes, what's up? You had a good chat with Tony today. Yeah, if anybody didn't know, Tactical Tony's birthday is today. Go give him a little love on his chat he did this morning, his birthday chat. Go say hello to Tony on there. Tony Norte Las Vegas, as the channel is known as now. I'm not sure what the Boers have to do this. We're focusing on America for right now there. 17 years, $16 trillion. What a coincidence. Right? I'm surprised it's been less than $1 trillion a year. And a lot of that's to do with shenanigans they can play at the Fed or at the Treasury. No, you can do it. There's not Blackhawks. There's actually a training here at the Carson Airport. There's a training helicopter school. You can do it. How you doing? Yeah, it's lunchtime here. Maybe not where you're at. It's a little late lunch, but it's still lunch. The issue is we cannot collectively stop paying. That's why it's electronic. Yeah, they've made a tax revolt almost impossible. So you have to get creative in other means of how you can resist taxation, right? Because basically taxation is done now without representation. And that's a limit on your security and freedom. Because you can't secure your financial freedom or security as long as they're stealing from you before payday, and then earning interest, and then telling you that they're giving you benefits that you don't end up getting that are supposed to provide for your security. But again, that doesn't happen either. So we've been promised freedom and security and gotten neither, just like Benjamin Franklin said. I think I would just have to leave it at that when it comes to when people discuss this day. People have died then and since, and to what cost and what gain and what ends, and none of it has benefited the American people. It has all been to aggrandize other people, will make others wealthy, and all at the detriment of the American people. You got an iPhone in trade for it. I hope you're happy, and they can use that iPhone to help track you even more and limit even more of your freedom. Look like Saints and Sappers joined us. What's up, Saints? Yeah, LS state-run school is not helping anybody either. All those places. There's so many different areas and fronts and avenues. Our freedom and our things of America have been degraded to the point in all fronts. That's why people get so exasperated on here and so frustrated, because when you look at it, you can't just attack on one front and think you're going to change the problem. You're not even going to, I mean, advancing on the education front, for example, is not enough when you got the taxation issue coupled with many other issues. The inflationary principles alone make it dang near impossible to, how many people can get by on a single earner income? It is pretty much impossible. And that, you know, if you wanted to get out of the education system, you just about can't because of inflationary money, because you can't homeschool, and you can't afford to put them in private school because you still have to rely on a two-person income. That's most of America's problem. We bought into the prosperity of a two-income household, and I just had to check and make sure that wasn't a drone there, Bobby. But that has limited so many of our ability, and that has reduced freedom as well, and reduced financial security and the stability of the family, on and on and on. All those things are tied together. So when we look at, okay, we're going to fight on this front, we're going to fight on this front, we're going to, we're going to push back against taxation, we're going to be active at the community level, we're going to be active in our local politics. It's overwhelming because there is so much that has been advanced so fast. If we look at just the last 17 years, like Bike said, $16 trillion of federal government aggrandizement to what benefit? And has it increased any of your freedom? Go to the airport and see how much freedom you have compared to what it was 20 years ago. Yeah, that's pretty much gone. I'd have to say, you have to just evaluate that. And today's a day that is hard to get through to people, and you don't want to disrespect the dead, and that's not the intention. But you also have to look at what was manipulated and happened after the fact that caused us to be where we are without the things we had before. Everybody, I remember the whole thing. They hate us for our freedom, which there was a tagline, and that really, well, they shouldn't hate us at all now. I mean, how much freedom do we still have compared to then, right? They should hate us a lot less, at least, right? I think that was pretty well deconstructed, though, shortly thereafter. I don't know how long that tagline lasted, but anybody that pushed that was very ignorant. But just the thoughts on today and what it means, and kind of some perspective on, I don't know, ways to really, how do you address people who are still stuck in the mindset that they'll never forget, but what are they never forgetting? You're just going to latch onto their memory with no realization of what needs to be preserved from them. We just forgot the freedom we had September 10th of 2001? Just forgotten and just let it go? Because that's what's happened to a large degree. So quick segue on the, as it says in the description box, as we got to roll this up. Hey, is that Walter Davis? Hey, what's up, Walter? Yes, Bobby, definitely. Are you evacuating? I forgot all about that. Didn't even think about that. So you got that hurricane coming right at you out there, Bobby. Are you evacuating or what? I know everybody I've seen down in the coastal areas are all bugging out. I've got at least half a dozen friends from high school and such that are down on the coast there, that are on their way out. As we speak, they're even talking about the mountains getting just overwhelming flooding, depending on how it hits, So get out if you can, Bobby. I know you were building that homestead property up in the mountains, but I don't know if that's ready to go yet compared to what's coming. Because they're saying that rain's going to hit the mountains just as bad as it does everywhere else. So that goes to USA Today. And this is out of yesterday's paper. Oh. And the headline, "We aren't prepared." And this is another thing we've been preaching on YouTube for how long? People have been talking about, and it goes into the story we talked about a couple months ago too, I believe. But that was the headline. That's the USA Today insert to the paper. And it's right off the bat, it says, unless an emergency affects them directly, Americans are slow to respond. So obviously, people that are in this hurricane zone are much more in tune annually. I mean, especially talk about Florida, people are much more aware and likely to be prepared. But you know, we talk about general preparedness on here and other channels all the time about for any emergency, any disaster. But yet, and the way this is summed up is people aren't going to be prepared unless they've had a situation in the past or something directly adjacent to them in the past. And why is that? Why are people so distant to the reality that it could hit you too, right? Is that just cognitive dissonance or just failure to recognize reality because they want to be sheltered in their own little world? Is that the problem? Just like we talk about, people have this perception of security, which is not reality. They lack freedom more so than they have security. So it goes into human nature. I think a lot of this is probably tied into, we talked about it being Preparedness Month. I'm sure they did a workup on this in preparation for this being Preparedness Month. But here it says, experts say people aren't really motivated by disaster until it comes to or through their door. I don't know what it'll take, says Jay Baker, a retired Florida State University geographer who has studied evacuation behavior. But disaster scenes are not enough. They give an example. Let's see some of these examples here. So the example here is, shortly after the Bel Air fire of 1961, Laura Sand moved into a west side of Los Angeles home. When she moved into the neighborhood, the hillsides were still charred from that fire, the Bel Air fire. On the next ridge, a row of chimneys marked where houses have stood before. But in December, when a pre-dawn fire came roaring toward the same home where she grew up, Sand was taken by surprise. She learned of the fire only when a friend saw it from the freeway and called her to warn her. Sand grabbed her laptop, purse, phone, and papers and hopped in her car. Right? Yeah, right. The bare, not even the necessities. Laptop, purse, phone. Yeah, that's really what you're going to need getting out, right? So the anecdotal, she escaped without a coat, toothbrush, cherished family records, etc., yada, yada, yada. So it goes on to just talk about people's general lack of preparedness. But just as an example, even people who have seen the results of disaster fail to prepare for that same disaster. And it says here, as FEMA Administrator Brock Long observed this year, America lacks a culture of preparedness. But then it goes back to what we just talked about. How can you prepare when the federal government is taking your livelihood and your labor in taxes? How would you be able to prepare? Especially when they're pushing all the consumption culture that they do, where it's you just consume, the consumer economy, all that stuff. So a 2015 study by the National Center of Disaster Preparedness at Columbia University found that 2/3 of Americans said that they were not prepared to evacuate in an emergency. And I guess you'd have to say, what does prepared mean? I mean, is that your own individual definition? Or is there some criteria they give them, like you have a bare minimum that you're able to take with you when you do leave? But it just ends the article. A plan sounds like a good idea until say you face the question of what to do about your kids at school in case of a disaster. Do you go get them? Does your spouse? Other questions that go into contingency planning and decision making. Traveling could be risky, so what are the school's plans for an emergency and how do you find out? Now, despite the expert pessimism, Sand thinks attitudes can change. Everyone feels vulnerable, she says, not invincible anymore. Well, maybe in her neighborhood, but I mean, it's just like this hurricane. We'll really see what comes out of it. But it looks like a lot of people are evacuating out of that path of that hurricane. They're comparing it to the 1950s hurricane, Henrietta or something like that. Hazel, maybe? I can't remember the name of it. But they're comparing it to that hit North Carolina pretty hard. The category 4, and they're saying it could have similar. So some people still have that memory, and they're spreading the word as appropriate. But yeah, Bobby, be safe. We may need to go to your mom and dad's. It's a brick home, right? Yeah, it could be bad, Bobby, but I think it's going to go north of you. You're just going to get a lot of flooding. Oh, Alicia brings up a good point. They treat preppers like they are crazy. They treat preppers like they're in a cult, right? But yet they tell everybody to be prepared. It's conflicting messaging, right? Because on one hand, the government doesn't want people to prepare because they might be capable of being independent without the government, and on the other hand, they want to take care of you in a disaster because, they can't get there. They're just not going to be able to get there in time, and they don't want to look bad because everybody expects the government security once again, this big arching government security envelope to come in and protect you and carry you away in your little soft, down bed or whatever. It's conflicting messaging. Yeah, right, Hugo at 89, Bobby. Yeah, they're saying this is a lot bigger than Hugo. I remember Hugo. I was back home then. Hugo was no joke. It ran all the way up the mountains. I think it died out over Pennsylvania or something. It was no joke. Yeah, Bobby, do what you got to do. Batten down the hatches, tie your stuff down, and get out. You know the deal. Right, LS, folks have it easy and they never believe it could happen to them. Zombies of a welfare state. Hey, Walter, how you doing? You expecting a storm surge? Are you that close to the coast? I didn't know that. Yeah, LS all the way up to the mountains are saying it could get quite a bit of wind and rain. Just depending on how it hits the coast. There's projections that it could bounce off. Once it hits the Carolina coastline, it'll bounce and head north up and just ride up the Atlantic coast and stuff. But it also could come all the way inland and just basically run over until it hits the mountains, and it'll kind of die out as a tropical depression somewhere. Oh, you just got a boat, Walter? Is that why you're getting? Is that why you're selling the car, Walter, to pay for the boat? Oh wait, that wasn't you. That was ZPD Survival that had the old Ford for sale. I'm sorry. There's a Truth Freeze. What's going on? How are you handling this? You bug out mode? I know you're probably in the path out there somewhere. So definitely getting the word out. Like Bobby says, they're expecting it to hit Thursday night. So a good 48 hours in advance, people are doing what has to be done. There was tons of stories and anecdotal evidence. People are stocking up on water. Who was in a wall? I think somebody was in a Walmart. Oh yeah, down on the coast of North Carolina. People, this was yesterday. People were clearing out water aisles and everything else. That's a good 3 days ahead of time. So people are paying attention, at least to that. Hopefully they learn from it, and hopefully they'll be more prepared the next time. But will people around it that watch it from afar, will they take it to heat and be like, well, what could happen around here like that? Like earthquake, fire, whatever, to cause this situation, right? So hopefully people are learning from this. Oh, Bobby. And Bobby, take some good videos, get a good after action report from anything if you have to leave and whatnot. Some of the road conditions and the madness of the highways. I mean, pretty much everything leaving the coast should be one way, right? Like all the interstates are, what do they call it when they open both sides? Contraflow on the highways, so that both north and south or east and west or whatever, it's all going all west and all north out of the area. Be some good images. Oh, Walter, you got a sailboat? You might sell it next week, though. Slightly distressed, right? Well, let's hope it don't get to that. Well, folks, we're going to have to wrap it up. Thanks for checking in for the lunchtime. Just wanted to share some thoughts there with those articles. In particular, we think about our freedom position and situation. And real quick, they're already pushing the message on flu shots. We're barely out of summer. This was another one I printed out just for my information, but this is out of CNBC. Summertime ends. Summertime just ended, but CDC officials are already urging people to prepare for another potentially nasty flu season because they continue to get it wrong. So, all right, folks, have a good day. Thanks for checking in. Live free.